Yo, back again, man. Your boy King Jacob, the Just Us Show, man, where we chop it up about community, lifestyles, along with what's going on in society. So tonight's topic, man, I got two biological brothers, and how great is that? They have different walks of life, different journeys, but face the same reality. So before we get into this topic, I'll go ahead and let the first brother introduce himself, and then followed by the second brother.
Yeah, let the old elder statesman introduce himself first.
Here
Yeah,
we
it's
go.
your boy. It's your boy Icon. So I'm glad to be here with my brother Jacob the Great.
Yeah, and y'all know who it is. It's Jay the King, aka Jay Smooth, aka the newly dawned Mr. Talk Talk. I'm happy to be here too. Appreciate it, Jacob.
It's some feedback in the background too, bro.
That's
Yeah,
mine.
my
That's mine. I'll turn it down.
Okay, all right, bet. So we're gonna get into this topic, man. A topic that a lot of people want to know, and a lot of people never really understand. Inside the mind of a black man, with all the adversity that a black man faces, throughout society, and what we have overcame, because we got to think, man. We're not living in the times that our grandfather and our great grandfathers live in, even not our fathers, man, because we didn't go through those depression days in the '70s like that. You know what I mean? So they faced a lot of adversity and still overcame, and still was successful at what they did. So okay, we'll start with you, man. So how can you best describe this topic, man? Inside the mind of a black man, what would what would you say, and how could you wrap your thought process around that to explain it to someone else?
Um, I would just say that the main thing I tell people that don't understand our culture or what we go through is to have more empathy and understanding and do their best to want to have a conversation. um, I think too many times that what happens is people make excuses for not knowing something because they don't really try to know. But me as a black man and being around, I'm type of person. I've traveled all over the country, and the one thing is for me is I don't never assume anything about a person, and assume that they supposed to know what's going on in my world or whatever. Now, we could say about a white person or Asian or any other color or race that they should know what's going on in our world, but let's think about it. Do we always know what's going on in somebody else's world? We assume, but we don't know. So my biggest thing when I, especially throughout the time, like when George Floyd and all this other stuff was going on, I had older white men coming up to me asking me what I thought about the whole thing. And I said the biggest thing for us right now is having a conversation when it comes to being in the mind of a black man because we fighting amongst ourselves more than we do anything. And we can't. I'll put it to you like this. I heard a guy named Charleston White say that the KKK and that slavery was a bigger killer of the black man in the black community than well, no, we were the bigger the gangster, the Crips and Bloods was a bigger killer of the black community than the KKK and slavery. And when I sat back and thought about it, I said, he has a good point because we should understand how to take care of each other, and we seem to forget that. But when it comes to the other races, we just automatically put that on them to take care of us when it's not really their job to do so. It's our job. So that's kind of like how I kind of break it down to a certain degree.
Okay, so before I let you jump on this conversation, Jason, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Queen Unique. Hi, Queen Unique. How are you tonight?
I don't think she can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good,
I'm
good, good.
sleepy.
Smile for me. Smile for me. Stop that. What you talking about?
This is my
so,
Halloween costume.
so,
How you doing?
so,
How you
so,
doing,
you
Miss
know,
Queen?
I think the topic might be, I don't know how far Facebook is gonna let you go with this topic.
well, it's the topic that need to be talked about. So, since you here, we're gonna go ahead and let you do a disclaimer, and um, and then we're gonna have you to chime in on the topic, followed by you, Jason, because we want to know what the female perspective thinks as well about inside the mind of a black man. Because y'all want to know these questions. Because I've heard plenty. I don't know what's inside their minds. So we're gonna let you do a disclaimer, then we'll let you chime in on the topic.
I'm probably a mistake, but so this is not a part of the
Break, break it.
organization. Basically,
Breaking up.
in and out tonight, but since the pronunciation, I don't know if y'all can hear me. We are here
Breaking up.
to discuss tonight.
You're breaking.
No, don't put kids in bed. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you're breaking up really bad.
I don't know. Let me see. Is it like still a bad connection?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, maybe I
Now,
can do a disclaimer. I mean,
now you're good.
it does. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't really think it's just me. Everybody kind of hit one off. But anyway, I'm gonna try to be fast and talk fast and do it Baltimore way. Not a part of the Unique Blessings nonprofit organization. Grab your wine, your water. Saints, go to bed. Pray for us in the morning. We just gonna be here, just being us tonight. And that's it. Cause I don't want to break up, and I was listening. This sound like it was good. What's in the mind of the black man? Blood. Just blood.
Alrighty then.
I said we just gonna be us. Like I was trying to be chill.
we come from y'all, so
Facts.
the thing about that is, we come from you guys, and we come out your womb, and everything that's taught by us first is taught by the love of our mother. So, the inside the mind of a black man, I'm pretty sure that there's a more, you know, uh, greater answer from a black woman. And so just wanted you to see what you thought on that perspective. Cause just know, fellas, that she is a psychology major, so she's very smart. So she thinks above average. So that's why you need to answer this question.
I can't answer that question. I'm not a man. Men are not
No,
thinkers. Men are doers. Women are thinkers.
I
So
said from a female's perspective, though.
you see how I just exhale?
Yeah. Hey.
I don't really know what the question was for tonight, but
Uh, uh,
I
the topic was inside the mind of a black man.
I knew what the topic was. I didn't know what the first question may have been.
Well,
But
the first question was, how would you resonate that topic, and how would you explain that topic to someone else?
whoa. Mm. I'm not gonna be mean to the men tonight.
Thank you.
Be
Thank you.
real.
Appreciate it. Be real though.
No,
Keep it
be real.
Keep it 100.
We need to learn. We need to learn. So we want you to be
We're
100.
gonna learn today.
Yeah.
Well, I actually so before we got on, but earlier before we got on, I said something about the topic tonight. The inside of the mind of a black man. I said I don't know what's in y'all head. And a black man told me it was ego. He said it's ego, it's power, it's control. Um, and I totally agree with that. And I think that get in the way of a lot of things as far as it concern a black man and a black woman. I think both have it difficult, to be quite honest. I will argue that the black woman have it more difficult than the black man because we don't have the support of our black men anymore. Um, and I just had this conversation about how the black man was removed systematically from the black family as being that strength, and I said just because they were removed don't mean that they had to stay gone. I think it's a choice that the black man stay gone because he do not want to face the past. It's hard being present, and he's uncertain of what the future may hold. Um, we as melanated women, I will not use the word black because that have strong meaning, but we as melanated women nowadays have become discouraged. We don't look forward to the melanated man coming back being that strength. So we're forced to be strong, but we are tired of being strong. Um, and is unfortunate. Our sons are taking positions of the fathers, and everybody is kind of out of place. And so I'm personally no longer waiting for the melanated man to show up, because it's hard for him to show up and recognize who he is when he don't have a place in the house. He's disrespected at work, and sometimes the easiest way is just to go to someone and something that don't look like him. And I think it's becoming the same for the melanated woman. It's the identity crisis within ourselves. And I would say maybe I wouldn't go as far as saying self hatred for me, but if we had to judge this as a whole culture, I think it's the hate that was put on us that penetrated within us, and that's what we are birthing, so to speak.
Interesting thought process, interesting theory, but it has
But
a
I don't think that's in the mind of them. I think the black man or the melanated man just at this point said, fuck it, this what they think about us, so fuck it. This what we gonna be, Judge me what you may. I don't give a fuck. And so it's now this tough exterior, but because you all came from us, we know that that's just a shell. But once you crack that shell open, just like my favorite thing, crabs, is actually substance in there. There's things in there, but you can't get into a place where we're no longer allowed.
hmm, appreciate you, Queen. So, JJ, Mr. Talk Talk, Mr. Talk Talk. So this is Mr. Talk Talk. Uh, Jason Jones, Mr. Talk Talk. Talk to him.
Man, I mean, it's hard coming behind a queen like that, but I mean, this has different meanings for me, because like I've traveled all over the world since I was younger. I'm originally from Liverpool, England, where my mother's from. My great grandfather was originally from Lagos, Nigeria, and he married my great grandmother, who was British and Scottish. And instantly, because he did that, her family cast her out, you know, totally kicked her out of the family. So from that part of it, like that's hard to understand and comprehend that. And then going from Germany and going all over the world. And the sad part about it is it's not just about us as black men in America fighting against each other. We don't like each other when it comes country to country. We don't care about each
Mm,
other. We're looking at each other. We're fighting each other. We're going against each other. We don't care about what's going on in Nigeria. We don't care about what's going on in France. They don't care about what's going on in America. Heck, we're looked at as we look down on them, and they look down on us like we've forgotten where we come from. And then as far as the black woman, you know, like Queen said, I do agree that we were systematically taken from the families. Like unfortunately, my brother didn't really get to raise with my father because he was in the military and there was a lot of dynamic with that. You know, my father was a hard, strong black man in the military, and I watched what he had to go through. watched him get passed up on rank because he was a black man, and then coming back to like Southern Pines, where me and my brother originally from in Carolina, you know, I was used to being on the military base. So all the kids got along. We all got along. Didn't matter what color it was. But then coming to North Carolina to see the dynamic of if I was hanging out with a white boy, all of a sudden I was a sellout. I was acting too white and I didn't
Mm.
understand what that was. Like even growing up, there was certain times as a black man that it wasn't about you getting straight A's in school. It was about were you out on the block chilling with your boys? What kind of shoes you had on? What kind of kicks you had on? Even from a perspective of for a while, I stopped wanting to even date black women because black women were hurting me and degrading me and talking down to me. But then when I went to other races, all of a sudden I'm a sellout, but now you want me, but you didn't want me when I was trying to be with you. So that dynamic gets hard, and I think a lot of it comes, bottom line, it comes to communication between each of us, not just as black men and black women, but black men ourselves. Every time we see each other, we're sizing each other up. We're not trying to communicate and
Mhm.
understand each other. We're instantly looking at each other. What you about? Are you hood enough? Are you gangster enough? Are you real enough? I mean, like Eddie will tell you, a lot of our neighborhood, the dope boy was more looked at as a hero than if you heard of a brother going to school and getting a scholarship to be a doctor. Like something's wrong
Mhm.
with that. Like, how is the dope boy who's driving,
Mhm.
pushing a BMW better than this black man who's struggling, working a 9 to 5, trying to pay his way through school, taking care of his kids, but he's a nobody. But meanwhile, this dope boy got 8 baby mamas, 10 kids, and ain't paying nothing. But he cool because he driving around in a new Benz and got the new Jordans on. But his kids getting out the thrift store. Like to me, something's wrong with that. And then as far as with our black women, we're not helping build them up either. Like they out here working hard right now. They struggling. They fighting. Why aren't we fighting with them? Why aren't we helping build them up? And then it goes vice versa too, because a lot of black women now they see us and they're looking at, well, what can we get out of your pockets? Because they've been scarred by some other black man. That's understandable. But at the same time, we need to be built up too. We're getting beat down in every different direction, from the white man at work, from our own friends, our own homeboys in the streets. Then we come home, and a lot of black women, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them, we come home, we're getting beat up by them too. Oh, you're not making enough money. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. You better off out in the streets getting this money. Okay, then if we do that, then we go to prison. Now we remove completely from the family. Now these sons, who these kids around here now, they don't have no one, no idols to look up to and bring them up either. And I think everything comes to, like Eddie said, even with these white folk, like I used to do Uber. I've been in marketing, I've been in music, I've been in all different types of industries. And the bottom line is there's no communication. And topics like this, people don't want to talk about. Like I made
Mhm.
songs years ago, Eddie would tell you, and the industry wouldn't let me in because they were afraid of what I was saying. They were literally telling me, oh, you need to dumb it down. You need to be more street. You need to be more of this. Yeah, I could do that. I've done that. I've had those experiences, but that's not what I was trying to do. But we were shunned for that. Like I went in the Navy, I was a nuclear engineer. There was only a handful of black men on that base. And we couldn't even get along at first because we automatically looked at each other like something was wrong. When meanwhile, these white folk, they didn't want us there either. So they were looking for a reason to separate us. We actually had to have a meeting together and all was like, look, why are we fighting each other? Because the only way we're gonna come up and succeed is if we come together. And at the end of the day, now it's not even just about color anymore. It's about class. But for us to get expanded upon that, we have to come together as a culture because you see the Asians, you see the Indians, you see all these other cultures, they come together and help each other. They're there for each other, and we need to be there more for each other as well, and we need to talk about these topics. Like Black Lives Matter, I thought was a great movement. Thought it was amazing at first. But then there's a difference between the movement and what was going on. Like they weren't even like we were originally supposed to be talking about, like me and Ed talked about the other day. We were originally supposed to be talking about police brutality. Let's tackle one thing at a time. It went from that to talking about 40 acres and a mule. Like
Mhm.
that's the past. We need to focus on the present right now. I always say you remember your past, focus on your present, prepare for the future. The reason we don't know about our future is because we're not preparing for it. And as black men, we got to come together more and work on that. Just like we're having this dialogue now. Yeah, we can argue, we can agree to disagree on stuff at the end of the day, but that's what builds us up and that's what's going to make us understand each other. If we don't communicate, there's never going to be any understanding. If we keep looking at each other like we hate each other, there's never going to be that understanding. So we have to work through that, and the whole dynamic. It's not as complex as we're making it. The bottom line is we need communication at the end of the day. Communication will solve a lot of this stuff, but we have to be willing to talk about it. And everybody gets scared when this topic comes up. Everybody gets nervous to speak their opinion in their mind, you know, and that's the only way we're going to get through it.
And so this topic was inspired by Dr. Marcus Garvey. He's one of my favorite people in history. I read a lot of his literature, and he said, never let any one individual control your thought process, because if you do, then your 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 genetics will be doomed.
Mm-hmm.
And so one person in the genetic gene can be doomed from somebody else controlling their thought process. So this topic kind of hit home with me as far as what I see and how people let their minds get programmed, um, from the street culture. So why is it that they only look at black people when they have made it successfully, or if they're only into music or athletics? I have a problem with that. I have
Mm-hmm.
a huge problem with that. But they don't want to give the black man his flowers that, came from poverty, went to school, got his bachelor's, went to medical school, and he's the number one, number two doctor in the state. You know what I mean? Whether it's the state of Maryland, state of Illinois, state of
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina, but they don't want to give him his accolades. So I have a problem with us not holding each other high regard. And I
Exactly.
do, and I do have a problem with us calling women bitches and whores and sluts and
Yes.
this and that.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
I have a problem with that. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Like so if you're going to do that, then what kind of value do you hold for your mother?
Yes.
Mhm.
In
Exactly.
my opinion,
Exactly.
you don't hold any. So,
Exactly.
their black women are not your bitches, your whores, and your sluts. They're mothers. They are creators. They are, producers. And hell, many black women have produced some of the best doctors in the world, best lawyers in the world, best engineers in the world. So it's way more than music and sports. And so I want to talk about topics that don't nobody want to talk about.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna get into this first question inside the man of the black man. We're gonna talk about a black man's emotions and why he has been taught that he can't cry, that he can't feel, that he has to have a face of stone, that he has to be solid, rock hard, no matter what he goes through in life. He has to suck it up and act like it don't bother him. So why are black men taught this way? And we'll start with you first, Queen Unique, and then you, Icon, and then you, Jason, and then I'll chime in on it.
I mean, I just have one word. I think it comes from slavery. Um, and I don't see anything beyond that. I feel like that's the seed of the problem, not just the root of the problem. You being tough enough to be a better slave. And
Okay.
then after a while, it just becomes a part of your immune system. So.
Wow. Interesting theory, but to have shackles on your mind is to be held at a process that's going to stagnate you for the rest of your life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
But I
definitely
have
interesting.
a saying: you can't get someone from being in captivity if they don't know or agree that they're even being held captive. So just because I say it, if you don't agree with it or accept it in your mind, you're free, but only in your mind. And sometimes we know and I think this week I've been like this week the spirit just been giving me like cultural cancer, and I feel like that's a good word to sum it up as far as what we are going through in our culture. And I don't believe that it's only in a melanated culture either. I just believe that it's highlighted in a melanated culture, and it's talked about. And but I do believe that we as just human beings, we are all held captive in our mind, forcefully. I mean, no one wants to agree that that's what's being done, but that is what's being done. And I think the worst thing that happened, to be quite honest, and I'm not old enough to speak too much on segregation, but I think that we are the only culture that wanted to integrate. And because of that, we lost our way, we lost our language, we lost our strength, and we continue to be that. And I mean, you can look at it in communities, education systems, employment. We are the only ones that's integrated and feel bad about just coming back together as a whole culture. And it's cancer and it's spreading and it's killing us all.
Mm, most definitely, most definitely. Thank you for that, Queen. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Icon.
Well, to fast forward to era to a time frame that I could say I'm more familiar with would be if you go back to your great granddaddies, your granddads, your dads, your uncles, your big cousins. Even when you 2, 3 years old, if you a little boy and you fall on your knee in the house or you fall outside, they'll say, "Get up. What you crying for?" or whatever. So,
Boys don't
a young,
cry.
huh?
Boys don't cry.
Yeah, boy,
Right.
exactly. Boys don't cry. So we taught at a very young age to be tough, even before we even understand what that word even means.
Mm,
So then, as we get older and we get around our peers and our friends, then we can't show emotion around them either because then we're gonna get picked on, ridiculed, bullied if we show weakness. Back when
mm,
I grew up, I mean, I was a little kid. I was small most of my life. So I had to fight all the time because people would always try me just because they felt okay, he's small, you whatever, so he can't fight, he not gonna fight back until I did. Then they would leave me alone. But at the same time, I was taught, such a young I was great. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. And my grandmother was a tough woman who was raised by her father, not her mother. So she was raised almost kind of like you almost say like almost like a tomboy or whatever. So she was raised to kind of do for her, even though she got married and had a husband, they was together for a long period of time. Her husband was military. So a military man. So military man back in the 40s and 50s, they how tough minded they are. So she, her raising a son and her helping raise me, she had the mindset of raising me the same way, a man would raise me. You know what I mean? To be tough and not to cry, and not show emotion or whatever. So I walked around most of my childhood life angry, always mad. If I did show emotion, it was I had to walk. I couldn't show it in front of other people. You know what I'm saying? Or it would be a sign of weakness. So I think that's what it is with me. And it took me, to be honest with you, to get older and to actually get married and to understand how to channel my emotion and to deal with stuff the way it need to be dealt with. Because I think the worst thing you can do as a man or any person is not to cry when you need to cry, not to laugh when you need to laugh, not to show emotion. Because if you keep all that bottled in, eventually it's gonna be like a bomb. It's gonna eventually explode. And when you go off, you know what I'm saying, it's not gonna be good for nobody around you. So if you need to cry when you need to cry, because as black men, we go through a lot of different things. Like my brother was saying, you dealing with this police brutality in this world. You're dealing with the white man on your job. You're dealing with people around you that's on you all the time. And then I think a lot of times with black men dealing with the black woman, the reason why I think a black man goes to the other race is because he doesn't want to have to live up to the expectation of that black woman. See, a white woman, if you don't live up to her expectations, you could just you'll make the excuse of, well, she was racist anyway, or she don't understand my culture where I come from anyway. But when a black woman comes at your head, when a real strong black woman gets on you, then it's a whole different thing. Then you have to live up to certain expectations, but that you otherwise wouldn't have to. That's why I think that's part of the reason why a man go is quick to just go to another race, because he's like, whether it works out or not, I don't have to live up any expectation. And the only thing I would say, what the queen was saying earlier, was when the black woman, the only thing I see more now in black women, I ain't gonna say the only sad bad thing I see with black women now is that black women stop having expectation in the black man. So the black man, when he comes out of jail, he doesn't try to better himself. You know what I'm saying? If he's on the corner, he doesn't try to get off those corners. You know what I'm saying? He just content to what he is, because that black woman said, well, as long as he brings some money in the house, it is what it is. But then when he end up getting locked up for the next 10 years, now we back to that systematically being displaced again. You know what I'm saying? Because once again, the women, I think a lot of women, I know this queen probably does, but I think most black women don't understand the type of power they have. And if they show that strength of for saying to a black man, look, I'm not I'm not tolerating certain things out of you. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing I'm not going to tolerate you, like, well, I've been married for 21 years, and I've lost a few jobs. My wife will let me mope around the house for about 3 days. After them 3 days, she'll say, "Get your ass up and go look for a job." You know what I'm saying? So she never let me linger and just wallow in my pity. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the biggest thing is, these black women have to start. You can't hear me?
Yeah, but
You
it's
good?
some feedback in the background.
Oh, okay, maybe it's this. Well, the biggest thing to me is I feel like that, the black woman has to put more pressure on us as black men. Because, you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, my wife don't tolerate me, you know what I'm saying, being just content with being me, just being nothing. It's like, okay, you lost your job. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 3 days. Let you kind of like get it together. But after 2 or 3 days, I need you to go out here and look for another job. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's one of the things that helped us last for so long, because I know I got a strong woman behind me or beside me, whatever you want to call it, having my back, but at the same time letting me know when I'm on my bullshit too. You know what I'm saying? So, um,
Yeah. I can dig it. I can dig it. That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Keeping it always real. All right, Mr. Talk Talk.
I mean, there's some good points made, as far as the mentality being enslaved and shackled for one. As far as like they said, as far as like my father was a military man, like Eddie know. Eddie knows some of the stories that me and him talked about as I got older that he wasn't even aware of. And from a young age, it was always to me, if I started crying or something happened, what you crying for? I'm gonna give you a reason to cry if you want a reason to cry. It was always one of those things. It'll
Yes,
suck it
sir.
up. And the scary thing about it was like Eddie knows I went through a lot of medical issues in my life. I've had 12 colon surgeries, and I was told that I was born like that. Like my colon wasn't attached; it was constantly twisting. And I was an athlete playing football, martial arts, wrestling, and everything. So whenever I got tackled or got hit, and I'm thinking that I'm in pain, oh, this is normal pain like everybody else. I got to suck it up though. I got to get up and suck this up. Had I known that maybe when I was younger, could have saved my life a few times. Even with my ex-wife, one of the things that she used to always say was, I never fully opened up to her 100%. The only times me and my brother really saw each other cry was when our father passed away, our grandmothers passed away, or one of our friends. Other than that, it'd be like, why are you crying? It makes me think of funny thing. Like I think about Johnson's Family Vacation when Cedric Entertainer was up there crying, and the first thing Mike Epps said is, "Look at his old huggy bear ass up there crying. What are you crying for?" You know, and that's how we're looked at when we do express those emotions. And then also, like you said before, King, about calling our women bitches and stuff like that. The woman I'm with now, well, we're working through some things, but the woman I was with now, the one thing she said about me that has shocked her to this day is I have never in my life, never at one time come out the side of my mouth and called her a bitch. Haven't even thought about it. Not a hoe, slut, anything. And she can call me out my name, call me anything she wants, and I won't do it. You know, my father taught me you don't call a woman that. You know, like even for example, I remember when Snoop Dogg's album came out, Doggy's World, and we're in the store. I wasn't old enough to buy it yet because you know back then you had to be a certain age to buy these CDs and these tapes and stuff. And he's talking to the guy, and he goes, "Well, do you think this is okay for a 14-year-old kid to be listening to?" He goes, "I mean, it's good music, but you know, he does talk about calls women bitches and this, that, and the other." So my dad looked at me. He tells me, "I'm gonna let you decide if you should buy this." He goes, "But how would you feel if someone walked up to your sister and called her a bitch?" He goes, "I know how you feel when someone says something to your mother. You always ready to fight." He goes, "Okay." So he's calling all these other women these names. They have brothers, they have sisters. There's somebody's mother, there's somebody's daughter. He goes, "So you think you should be driving around listening to this?" And it made me take back a second and think about it. And I had to be like, you know what? Nah, he's right. I don't need to get this CD right now. Because how would I feel if my sister hears this and I'm singing this and I'm saying bitch this and bitch that? And Eddie knows our big sister, she a strong black woman. She didn't play back then about respect, you know? So I had to learn that, you know what I mean? And then like even now, like Eddie said, it's good to have that strong woman in your corner. You need that. Like my lady tells me all the time. Like when she gets mad at me about certain things, I'm like, why is she so mad in the beginning? And then I understood. She goes, because you got to understand something. I put you on a certain pedestal. So when you don't succeed or you do fail, I'm like, it's a disappointment because like I'm expecting more from you. Step up your game. And it's made me step up my game and elevate myself in a certain manner. You know, well, like Eddie said, I've been with other women. It's kind of just like, okay, I'm good as long as you bringing in the bacon. You're getting your little 9 to 5 or whatever. Don't you want more? You know? But then at the same time, it's also not the responsibility of a black woman to do that. It's our responsibility. When are we gonna man up and say we got to do better? You know, not just within ourselves, but to each other. Like me and my brother, we don't play that with each other. Like if he's down on something or I'm down on something, like he said, we're like, okay, bro, it's been 2 days. What's up? What's your next move? What you gonna do? You ain't got time for this. Step up.
Right.
Even
Right.
my best friend, me and him are the same way. Like, bro, get it together. You know what I mean? It's all about expectations of what you set for yourself and what the people around you. Like I always tell people, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. So if you're around those people, look at them. Look at the direction you're going and they're going. If you see, yeah, you can still be friends, you can still kick it, but you can't necessarily do everything together. It's not about leaving people behind, but it's about setting the expectations, raising that bar for yourself. And if we don't do it, then how do we expect our sons to do it? How do we expect them to have expectations better for themselves? Because it's not always about talking. Like, yeah, I'm called Mr. Talk Talk, but I'm also Mr. Walk Walk. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm gonna back up what I'm talking about, and that's what we have to do as black men too. In our minds, everybody wants to know what's in our minds. In our minds, we're trying to figure out ourselves a lot of times. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're trying to understand what we got going on. Like even like I said, one of the things that trips me out, like even with my lady now, like her baby's daddy, he ain't really about nothing at all. You know what I mean? But the expectation she has for him and has for me is different. He's got a little room. He sees his daughter every now and then. He's got a little 9 to 5 job. She's happy for him. She's proud of him. If I was in the same, she takes him to dinner. If I was doing the same thing, what are you doing? Come on, Jason. We got to take care of this. We got to do that. We got to do this. So it's like Eddie said too. Sometimes that expectation has got to be a little different, but we got to take it on ourselves too. You know, we shouldn't have no one else raising our children. We should be doing that. We should be stepping up. Like me, I lost my daughter when she was 6 months, preemie. I lost that blessing. And the thing that upsets me the most too with that is when I see these black men that have kids and they don't give a shit about them. They turn the other way. They let society raise their kids. They let these strong black women raise them by themselves. And as a black man, we all know one of the biggest impacts in our lives is the black men that we look up to in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And if they ain't around, so what do we turn to? We turn to our boys in the street for advice. We turn to them for advice on women, advice on sex, advice on getting money, advice on education, advice on everything else. So we're gonna keep being trapped because we turn to people who don't know as much as we do. You know, and knowledge is power more than anything. And if we can't obtain that knowledge from you know, like they said, we systematically remove, but at the same time, It's enough making that excuse too. Because the fact of the matter is, we're sitting here talking about and admitting and that we know we're getting systematically removed from our families and getting displaced. You even hear from the cat that's in the hood that says it. Oh, they locking us up. They don't want us here. They know what they're doing. So if we know that, it's like my dad used to say, like my aunties and my grandmas used to say, if you know better, you do better. And nowadays, ignorance is an excuse. There's too much information out there. Everything is there for us in plain as day, plain as sight. So if that's the case, then why aren't we doing better? Why? Because we're still using these things as excuses. We're using them as a reason to say when we fall and we fail, that's why we fail. Oh, it's the white man's fault. Oh, they locking us up. Oh, it's the drugs they pumped into the community. Man, the drugs been pumped in the community since the 80s. We knew what they were doing back then. And y'all still poisoning our people. We're still poisoning each other. Oh, it's their choice if they decide to do it. Okay, it's your choice. You decide to sell it. No one's holding
Facts.
themselves accountable with nothing no more. And I don't care if nobody likes what I'm saying or not. Judge me, whatever. It doesn't matter no more. Fact of the matter is, this stuff needs to be talked about. Like, I've been in the streets before. I'm not saying I was no gangster or anything, but I've been around that part of the culture. I've been in corporate America. Corporate America is just as much sharks in corporate America as there is out in the streets. But the fact of the matter is, you got to hold yourself accountable for yourself before you can expect someone else to. Like Eddie, I know my sister-in-law is a beautiful, strong black woman. But you know what? She wouldn't be with Eddie if Eddie wasn't a strong black man too and held himself accountable too. Because Eddie made the decision, I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to do what I need to do too. She's just there to give him that extra boost and extra push when he needs it. That extra support. And that's the other thing. We need our support system. But it's sad, like even in our own communities, when we try to do stuff like you said, King, if you ain't a ball player, if you ain't in the rap business, if you ain't selling dope, when you try to do even things like this, little podcasts and stuff, and we're trying to come up, people ain't on there supporting us. Like we got to support each other. We open a store in our neighborhood, and we're quick to go across the street to the Asian store and get food stuff from them, because when we come to our store, first thing we want is, yo, you gonna hook me up? Oh, you ain't gonna hook me up? You ain't gonna give me no discount?
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that? Oh, you foul, you phony. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
not about a hookup. Build this up, then maybe I can hook you up once we build this up. But that's where they come in our community. They say, you know what? I'm gonna open a spot right there. You know? And that's the problem. We don't try to support each other in that part of it either. We're gonna keep being oppressed mentally and systematically if we don't hold ourselves accountable and start building each other up. And then when we do that, don't nobody want to do that either. First thing everybody wants to do, well, I'm going for mine. Excuse my language, fuck what he doing. I don't give a shit. He just a hater. He ain't looking out for me. What, you want a handout with everything? Man up and do what you got to do too. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, oh, well, my woman, when I come home, she always gets my business. She always doing this. She always doing that. She always riding me. She always riding me. Don't you want a woman who gives a damn about you and cares about you enough to push you? Because if you are doing what you're supposed to do, that black woman, the black women I know, they're going to be right there to ride with you and rock with you too. You know what I mean? And vice versa. So the bottom line is, as black men, yeah, we can say our queens need to build us up. We can say that. We can say it's the other races. We can say use all the excuses we want. But the fact of the matter is, we need to get up and look in the mirror in our minds and say, we gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna use everything as an excuse. I'm not gonna use my skin color as an excuse. I'm gonna not use my upbringing as an excuse. I'm not gonna use the fact that my father wasn't in my life or my mother wasn't in my life. More excuses you make, by the time you look back, your time is gonna be gone on this earth.
Facts. Facts. Facts.
You
So,
know?
so, Jay, you're definitely right about that. It's an excuse, but sometimes when we think it's an excuse, it's all a part of their mental capacity, their mental issues,
Right.
emotional issues, their mommy issues, their daddy issues. So the mental state of a black man, what would you say that mental state is on all the issues that black man goes through?
It's delicate. It's a delicate topic. You know, mental mental health is more important than physical health than anything else. Like I went through a depression for a while. Like I was in a dark place for a long time because a lot of stuff that was happening to me, and I felt like every time something happened, I was getting beat down. Be it my health, be it my ex-wife, be it my father, be it whatever it was, society. I always looked for a reason as it being getting beat down. But you know what, Jacob? At the end of the day, we all have these issues. We all have it, and that's the problem. We don't communicate. It goes back to that suck it up mentality. It goes back to that keep it in mentality. We gotta be strong. Oh, if you're not,
So,
you're weak.
I just want to ask all three of you guys this. Um, Telling a person to suck it up and stop whining, how bad does that affect a person's mental health when they're going through these psychological barriers, when they feel they have nowhere to turn, and when they're trying to explain to someone what's going on, and they tell them, just stop crying, suck it up, man. Like this happened to everybody. You're no different. So stop whining about it. So, Queen, I'll start with you first. How bad does that affect someone's mental health, including the black man, and as well as the black women? So, how bad does that affect somebody's mental health and their emotional health, and how bad does that damage them spiritually?
I think it's the worst thing that you can do to someone. I mean, I think it feels so bad. It time it needs to and first thing you can do someone is get the things that hurt them. Come out. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you breaking up bad. So, Icon, how bad does that affect somebody's mental health when you tell them to
I,
suck it up and go, and they have this problem and they're trying to explain to you?
well, I think it boils down to at like what as we grew up, you was don't add, it was do what I say, not what I do type of thing. You couldn't question your grandmother, you couldn't question your mom, you couldn't question your dad as a child. So, as a child coming up, if
I'm
my
not
mom
sure if
do
you
something,
can me.
It's still breaking up.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's explaining to you. I'm not sure. Can you know?
That she's still breaking up pretty bad, right, fellas?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because is bad internet.
Okay.
You want me to go?
I think it's awful.
Okay, I think
So
I can hear it now.
I don't know if you heard that much.
Yeah,
I
I
can
can
hear
hear
you
you
now.
now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and chime in on what I asked you about how bad does that affect the mental health, emotional health, and damage somebody spiritually when you tell them to suck it up and go and they trying to. So go ahead, Icon. So when you
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get them to
yeah.
really, they're trying to explain something to you and it's hurting them emotionally, it's affecting them mentally, and they have no spiritual growth, as they're going through their journey.
I mean, like I said, the thing at the end of the day, when I grew up, I couldn't question my mom. I couldn't ask certain questions. I couldn't do certain things. So, like my mom, I never had like a talk with my mom about basically the birds and the bees. We never had that conversation. My mom thought I was a virgin till I was in my 20s or whatever because I never had those type of conversations. As a child, I was molested by a neighbor while she was babysitting me. I told my mom and them 5, 6 years later after it happened when I understood what it was, and they said I was lying. So the thing about it is you know, the communication has to with your child has to be early on, with your children early on. Like with my kids, we sit down and talk about everything. I don't care what it is, what they feeling. You come to me, you tell me and your mom what exactly what's going on, so we can work through all of that. And I think that's a
Hmm.
lot of why we have, and I'm not trying to be funny or whatever. I think a lot of times why we have a lot of these kids that are sexually like confused early on because their parents are not having these conversations when they see the signs. They just and that's not that's not what it is or blah blah blah. So I think from a mental standpoint, on a psychological, spiritual standpoint, if you don't have a support system where you can go to talk these things out, it's going to be worse on everybody as you getting older. And with a black man, like we talked about earlier, the black man, a lot of times, a little black boy, if he grows up in an environment in the projects or whatever, and his mama's on crack and his daddy's in and out of jail, and all he has is these kids in the neighborhood and they selling drugs and doing this and doing that, and he don't want to be a part of that world. He want to do something else with his life. But if he even think about doing something else with his life, he looked as being weak or soft or whatever. So at the end of the day, like from his spiritual standpoint and from his psychological and whatever mental standpoint, he just bottles it up and just walks around like just like empty all the time. You know what I mean? I remember the movie what's the little boy, and he was in the movie he played in the Wood, but he played in another movie where he was raised by his sister, and it was him and the little Puerto Rican boy or whatever. And I remember like he was going through all this dynamics. His sister was dating this drug dealer. Him and his friend was out here trying to make moves. His dad was the deadbeat. All he did was sit around and play chess all day. Samuel Jackson was in the movie too. I'm trying to recall the name of the movie, but it's a real good movie. And at the end of the movie, when everything happened the way it happened, he just broke down and started crying. And his sister was just standing there looking at him like, what in the world? And this boy was only like 12, 13 years old. And he going through all this stuff in his world where he don't got nobody to talk to. And I'm sorry, his dad at the end. At the end, he's sitting there about to play chess with his dad. And his dad, you could tell his dad was like one of them strong black men that you come here, we about our business, and you go. You know what I'm saying? And whatever, they played chess every week. And he sat down and they didn't do no talking. They just played chess. And the first time he wanted to sit down and like, he sat down in front of his dad that time after everything happened in his world, like kind of went crashing down. He just sat down and just started bawling out. And the dad sitting there looking at him like, he just kind of stopped, like, I don't even know what to do with this. You know what I'm saying? So that comes from the older black man being like, it's just like a generational curse. The older black man is worse than the black man now, because like the black boys now, at least they're expressing themselves. We might not like how they express themselves, but at least they're expressing themselves. My generation to our granddaddy, dad, all of them, they wasn't expressing themselves at all. But at least with these little boys now, they're expressing themselves. Like I said, but the thing about it was nobody sat them down early on to say, this is how a man acts. This is how a man walks, talks, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because not to put it on a black woman or any woman at all, but a woman does the best way she can, do the best job she can to raise a black boy. And a lot of time with a black woman, like with my wife, she's very like, she's one of those type of moms. Like if I say, boy, get up, you don't cry, she would be like, come here. Let mama look at it. I'm gonna give you a hug. You okay? You good? And then she would be more like that. And I'm looking at like, why? He gonna be soft. You know what I'm saying? So you got these black women. They just doing the best they can, but they don't understand in the mindset the mental part. They just know the motherly part of how to raise the black man. So then all of a sudden, when the black man he gets older, I don't think there's nothing wrong with wearing certain type of clothes or doing certain things like. Well, something I've seen lately that just blew my mind. Me and my wife, it was her birthday. She wanted to go get her nails done. She said, look, let's go. You get your feet done when I get my nails done. I said, cool. So I'm sitting there. There's a white kid beside me. You know what I'm saying? Probably maybe early 20s, whatever. And then he gets glittery nail polish on his toes and his fingers. And I'm thinking like, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he's a gay white guy. But then his mother and his whoever it was, I think it was mother and his aunt or somebody, they was like, "Oh, what your girlfriend gonna think of this? It's gonna blow her mind to see her boyfriend sitting here with all this on." And then now, that's the first time I've seen that. And then when the lady asked me, I'm like, "No, I'm good." But then all of a sudden, I'm starting to see this around the country. I'm starting to see this around the country, brother. Like I go in the stores now. You can't even assume that they gay no more. That's just the way they, just like with the tight pants or the certain colors they wear, schemes and stuff. You can't assume that these little boys is gay no more just because they wear certain type of clothing or do certain stuff. Like I said, this boy, he had a girlfriend. But for some reason, that's the thing now is the glittery nail polish on men, and I don't get it. But you know what I'm saying, like I said, it's just like I said, but it got the communication has to be there early on. You're just speaking from the little black boy. We have to have communication, whether it's with the mom or the dad or the uncles, and hopefully the dad and the uncles can get back into the household so it can be more with the dad and the uncles and not put that on that black woman anymore.
And I just want to say, man, when it comes to them old school dads, you know, they practice a lot of tough love. And I think because they practice that tough love with the young boys, I think that tough love kept, as my daddy told me, and he done passed on. Um, he said to me, son, if you don't do nothing but two things for me in life, you can do what you want, when you want, who you want. He said, you just need to promise me that you're gonna stay out of jail and stay out of hell.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, bro. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
bro. When I tell people that, they look at me and be like, boy, that's the realest thing I ever heard a
Yep.
father say to his
Facts.
son.
That's facts.
Stay out of jail and stay out of hell. So, and a lot of times, man, when these, like this young boy told me one time, he said, man, I said, why you out here in these streets, bro? He said, shit, man, this passed down genetically. So my daddy went shit, my uncles went shit, all of them were dope boys. How can I even make it out when his homeboys that's still out here, as soon as I'm trying to play sports and trying to do the right thing, they putting $1,000 in my pocket every week.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so if I can't myself, accumulate that, he said I got two little sisters, three little sisters, man. He said I got three little sisters, man. My grandmother got old, and my mom on heroin, and my daddy doing 30 years. He said, so how I'm supposed to feed them? He said,
Mm-hmm.
do you actually think the government care about three, four black kids? When there's mother on drugs. So as soon as if my grandma did ask for government assistance and everything, they see that she's too old to take care of us. The first thing they're gonna do is split us up and put us in
Foster
foster
home. Foster home.
care. And he
Yeah.
said, so I ain't gonna have that, man. So it's tough, man, on a lot of young black men that don't have the father in home. And
But
so the absentee of a father is what I call a mental setback.
mm-hmm.
Because mentally it registers way most of them won't show emotions, but mentally it kind of damaged them so bad mentally till they feel like they just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
don't care, man. And any little black kid or any kid, period, man, that don't have a father, I'm big on the absentee of a father because one thing about it, children do not ask to be born.
Brought here. They likes to be here.
Children don't have to be brought into this world. So it's up to us as kings and queens on this earth, man. Is if a child is in need, then we have to be that vessel to help that child, no matter what. It don't gotta be your biological child. Like just like you, I have two biological brothers on this live tonight, the Jones brothers out of North Carolina, and y'all got different walks of life. So with that being said, man, y'all got different perspective, but the same bloodline. You know what I mean? So, you know, um, I just and the next question is how important is mental health when understanding a black man?
I mean, if I could take this one, mental health is like I said, it's everything, and piggybacking off that, just like with me, like my father at one point in time, that the key was with him, he was in my life, but at times he was so scarred from his father not being in his life. Like his father left him when he was 5 years old, just abandoned him. Him and his brothers and sisters left. Didn't know where he went, just took off. You know, he sat there all day waiting for him to come home. 5 years old was the first time that man looked at me and told me he hated me. You know, And it messed me up for a long time because I felt like I couldn't approach him with certain things. I couldn't approach him crying. I couldn't approach him talking about certain things. You know what I mean? So I would turn to my friends. I would turn to different situations. You know, Eddie wasn't there because of whatever the dynamic of our family was. And I wish he would have been there when I was younger because he could have guided me in different directions with certain things too when I needed that advice. Luckily, I had other family members that were there. You know what I mean? And then even like me myself, my ex-wife, when I met her, it was me and her. We met in college after I got out the Navy. Due to certain situations, we had to take in her two nieces and two nephews. You know, weren't mine biologically at all. Weren't hers biologically. But if we didn't, like you said, they would have been pulled into the system. And I'm 20, 22, 23 years old saying, you know what? I'm not going to let that happen to them, you know? So I stepped in figuring, and everybody would ask me, why are you doing that? Like, you're young. You got a ready-made family. Can you handle this? Can you do this? It wasn't a matter of if I could. I knew what was going to happen if they didn't have their siblings around, because I know what it felt like not to have my brothers and sisters around. And I also knew what it felt like to not have that family structure around. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't perfect. I had to learn how to grow. I was still growing myself with that. But what it did was it allowed me to grow mentally. And at the same time, like these kids may not even talk to me right now. But guess what? One's an RN. One's got a psychology major. The two boys are chefs, and they're taking care of their families now. They're committing to society. But it was that mental health thing. And like Eddie said, with them, one of the things I always did with them was it wasn't always do it because I said so. No, this is why I'm telling you not to do it. This is why this is what we're going through. If they needed to cry, I would tell the boys, cry. It's okay to let it out. You need to let it out. Because one, that's going to help you grow spiritually and mentally, emotionally, and it makes you understand that sometimes being able to cry and express your emotions makes you is stronger than sucking it up. Because that's harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as black men, it's hard for us
Mm-hmm.
to do. So to be able to do that,
Mm-hmm.
like the woman I'm with now, I've cried like a baby in front of her, you know? And my exes could tell you, Jay crying like that? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? But it's allowed me to grow as a man too. You know, and it's allowed her to be attached to me too. You know, like I would break down to her. She goes, you know what? That shows me more strength than you not because it shows that you know who you are. You understand who you are. And you're not going to get stronger and healthy mentally if you aren't able to let that out. And like you said, we don't have that support system. You know what? We need to start being that support system for each other. You know, like me and my brother, we can
Mm-hmm.
cry with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying cry like a baby and wham all the time, but when it's some real shit, we can look at each other and be like, bro, damn, you know what's going on? And we can let it out. And then from there, that's the process of healing. That's the process of growing. That's the process of understanding each other. That's the process of communication. But until we get that mentally, that's where we got to start at. Like we know we all tough. We know we can be tough. We were taught to be tough. We all understand what respect is. We understand what right and wrong is. Like my one thing with my father too, like you said, King, he was like, my goal is to keep you out of prison and keep you out of hell. That's my goal. That's my job as your father. You don't have to like me. You know what I'm saying? Like I can count on the amount of times my dad said he was proud of me. And I used to think I was doing something wrong. But what he told me is if I told you I was proud of you all the time, one, what goals you have to strive for. Two, it isn't going to matter as much when I do tell you. You understand what I'm saying? That's what your mama for. Your mama going to tell you she's proud of you all the time. You're doing great. Keep it up, son. You know what I mean? But even my mother was tough too at times. You know? So the mental health part of it is key to everything. And mental is going to be part of your spiritual growth too and part of spiritually healing. You know? But until we break that barrier and crack that, then where we at? You know, and part of it comes, like you said, talking about these discussions. What's in our minds right now? Because we're all three black men here, and like you said, me and my brother, we're siblings, blood. But at the same time, there's different ways we look at things. We have different perspectives. Just like our younger brother, he has a different perspective and outlook on this topic. You know what I mean? But at the same
Right,
time,
right.
we also have the same perspective on it too. But we can talk to each other about stuff like this. Like we'll argue all day. We can fuss, fight, and argue. Then afterwards, it's all love because we've expressed it to each other and we understand where each other is coming from and we try to relate. But the problem is We can't relate if we're not trying to communicate. You know what I mean? And even if society's already preventing us from doing it, you know, if we can't communicate with our sisters, if we can't communicate with our queens, if we can't communicate with each other as kings, then how are we ever going to get healthy mentally? How are we ever going to grow
Mhm.
spiritually and be strong spiritually? How are we going to be connected? But we have to be able to
And,
do
and,
that.
and you're right, absolutely right by all that you said. And then, when it comes to these young boys, man, the young males, they'll ask you, they'll be like, yo, Mr. Jacob, can I keep it really, really real with you?
Hmm.
This is going to be a little vulgar. And I had a young man tell me, two different young men now, they told me something different. They said, man, Mr. Jacob, man, I love my mother to death, bro. I love her. I do anything for her. I walk through the fire, flaming fire if I had to for her, man. He said, man, but my mama loved this nigga dick more than she loved me.
Mm.
And you hear
Mm.
that. You do hear that
Bro,
too.
and listen now, this is not a regular conversation with a grown man. This is a conversation that a
Child.
12-year
Mm-hmm.
old boy thinks.
Child.
You know
Yes.
what I mean?
They
Like,
forced
so
they
for the
forced to
12,
grow up early.
yeah, man.
These little
They have
boys
no
are forced to
choice.
grow up
No
early because
choice
there's
now.
no black man in the house. It's no father in the house, so they forced to grow up early. See, my thing is the thing around reason why me and my brother have different perspectives at the same perspectives at the same time on certain things because, like he said, I wasn't raised by our father. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so I grew up bitter. The men that were in my life, they wasn't really around. They worked all the time or whatever. Like my granddad was the only one that spent time to meet with me, and he died when I was like 6. So that's the only memory I had of being around a strong black man because he took me everywhere he went. But then after that, I didn't have nothing else. My uncle, he was a politician, strong black man himself, but all he knew from the time he was a kid was the work. He used to cut grass when he was 10, 11 years old. And from there, he always worked. That's what he was a worker and whatever. He didn't, he had a hard time. He was very successful in the corporate world, but his house was a mess because he wasn't spending time with his family because all he knew was to work. So when I got to a certain age, and then another thing too, I can tell you how many times on one hand, and this is no lie, but how many times my mom has told me she loved me in my life, how many times my grandmother told me before she passed in her life. Now I knew they loved me, but they didn't express the words to me. You know what I'm saying? So me and my sister grew up together in the same household. I don't think me and my sister, we was an adults literally before we ever told each other we loved each other, and that was probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we were talking about mid 30s, almost 40 years old before me and my sister even uttered those words to each other. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you know my sister, you know she's a very caring person. She's a very strong person, but we didn't use those words. So when I had my own family, the one thing that was hard for me, like my wife, she'd tell me how she loved me every single day. At one time, at one point, it's to drive me crazy. Like, you don't have to tell me every day. This, you showing me whatever being here is good enough. I don't have to hear it every day. You know what I'm saying? And so, and my daughter, she's more like me, and my son was more like his mom, where, you know what I'm saying? Because when they were early and when they was young, I was just like my uncle and just like the men I knew that was around my life. All I knew was the work. I didn't know how to be there emotionally for my kids or whatever. You know what I'm saying? My kids laugh about it now, but they was like, Dad, when we used to babysitters, you used to put us in the room and you go in the other room and go to sleep. And as long as we ain't burn down the house, you didn't care. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, okay, because that's all I know. I'm like, I'm the worker. I'm the one that make the money. You know what I'm saying? This other stuff, that's on my wife to do all that. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like I do it when I feel like it, but I'm not about. That's not my job as a man. So I think from that mental aspect of it all is kind of, I had to learn, like especially when I sat down with, when I got into church, because I think from mental standpoint, you got to have a relationship with God. I tell anybody that when
Yeah.
in your marriage,
Facts.
in your
Mhm.
personal life,
Facts.
whatever your God is your God. I'm not going to debate on if you're a Jew or Jehovah's Witness, Baptist. I don't care none of that because I think that's another
Way of
conversation
separation.
for another day. We
Mm.
start talking about those titles, but I'm just saying having a relationship with God gets you through anything. And if you have that relationship with God, I think that's half the battle when you're talking about the mental part of what you go through. You know what I'm saying? So once you understand that part, then it makes some of the mental hurdles that you have, it makes it a little bit easier to go through. But then at the same time, when I know a lot of people don't care about church or whatever, but sometimes you can find some good people in the church that can sit you down and get you to understand. Like my first pastor I went to when I started going to my wife's church, because she grew up in a church background, like they went to church 7 days a week, like them all that they did back in the day. I didn't grow up like that. You know what I'm saying? I grew up when my mom was a Baptist, my grandmother practiced Jehovah's Witness, my granddad was a Methodist when he was alive. So I seen all different types of religion, but I was never forced to go to church. I went when I wanted to, like Easter and Mother's Day or whatever. You know, my mom every now and then my mom would say, "I want y'all to go to church with me," type of deal. But other than that, I didn't go. And if I did go, I wasn't going there for the God. I was going there to see what kind of girls were going to be there or something. Or you know what I'm saying? Or if they were having a dinner or lunch or something, I'd go there to eat. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was for me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So at the end of the
Facts.
day, when the first time after my wife got married, the preacher that was in her church, we sat down and had to have marriage counseling before, like right when we got married. And and my brother tell you know already, Jake, I'm a straightforward person. But then
Yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
even worse because when you can't be like with men, we can be straightforward. With a woman, you can't always be straightforward. So I was too straightforward. Well, you had to have counseling on my straightforwardness. Like I had to understand that before anything else was like, okay, I get it. This is how you think. And he was a Jamaican guy. So, you know, Jamaicans, they really straightforward. And he had to tell me, like, bro, I get it. But when you talk about a woman, you got to do it. Like, you got to be more tactful. You know what I'm saying? Da, da, da. So, you know, so I had to learn all them dynamics, you know what I'm saying? But all of that came from when I started tapping to my spiritual side, what made me help me understand what was going on here, my mental capacity and the things I can and can't deal with and that I can have, you know, when I got to Georgia down and then I got around other strong black men that was on a spiritual level, I could go and sit with them and have conversations and understand exactly how to deal with life. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing about it is the way you deal with this world is the people that, like my brother said earlier. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a lot of times how the white man look at the black man. They look at the people you're around. Because you know, the first thing a successful white man will tell you, I can tell you who you are as a person by the people you're around. You know what I'm saying? He says, so whoever your friends are tells me exactly who you are. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna I'm gonna give back the floor, but I'm gonna say this. If you and people sometimes think I overhype LeBron, but I say this. LeBron came into the NBA, and the guys that's around him all became successful before he let them be around him on a regular basis and handle his business and be around him. A lot of times these black men get in the NBA and they want all these niggas from the hood. I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. They want these niggas from the hood that ain't gonna do nothing for them, ain't providing anything for them. Because I'm gonna say this. I was listening to what's the brother name that played basketball, not Kwame Brown.
Oh, Gilbert Arenas.
No. What's the old boy that played with that married the Kardashian? Got on drugs. Lamar Odom.
Lamar Odom.
Lamar
I
Odom,
don't,
yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard this story, but he was doing an interview, and he said that basically he felt the drug test smoking weed because he's sitting around with his homeboy smoking weed, and he said after he felt that drug test, he said he thought about it. He said not one of y'all said to
Told me
me
not to.
not to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all can keep smoking weed every day, and it ain't gonna be no repercussions. But if I do it and get in trouble, then of course the money stopped. He lost over 30-40 million dollars because he couldn't get a new contract because he kept failed a drug test or whatever, and it cost him millions of dollars. But if you don't have them type of people around you, you got a bunch of yes men around you, then you know what I'm saying? How can you grow mentally if everybody around you just telling you everything you're doing is good? You know what I'm saying? R. Kelly
So,
was never gonna grow mentally with everybody around him telling him he was straight. You know what I'm
so
saying?
let me ask- so when you become successful and on another plateau, um, people say that's already successful. They say your environment should change. They always say that if you want to learn the wealth secrets, then you have to be in connection with somebody who know the wealth secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, so if you want to become a millionaire, what can a person that can't even spell million tell you about becoming a millionaire?
Exactly.
Nothing.
So, so you have to be around like-minded people, and
Mm-hmm.
back to that question when that young man told me that, man. What I told him, man, is I said, you can only live for you, son. I said,
Mm-hmm.
you're 12 years old, you'll be 13 soon. You have to figure out. And this is a grown man conversation. He asked me for this. He said, talk to me like I'm already a senior in high school and going on to college. He said, I told him, I said, you have to figure out what you want to do with your life, live what you want to live. You want to look at your environment that you're in, and you don't want to be a part of that environment. I was like, you can be successful, you can win. Never let the things around you tell you that you tell you or have you thinking that you can't. Because just like this has happened to you as a child, this only gonna make you stronger and gonna make you go harder. You have to be goal driven no matter what you do in life. Um, Everybody can grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth. And so,
Fact.
you know, um, from that conversation, I had a whole nother conversation with another young black man that was about 14. And he said, man, Mr. Jacob, my mama loved them damn drugs more than she loved me, man. He was like, man, that don't make no damn sense. He said, but this what he told me. He said, I'm gonna pray for her and I want God to encourage her to come home on the spiritual side. Because without the spiritual side, those drugs is gonna kill her and I'm gonna be a motherless child.
Mm.
Bro, how
14 years
could this
old.
come on, man? Like what? Like I'm thinking to myself, this young man must been here before. Like cause no 14-year-old talk like that, man. And so, man, us as a black community, we gotta do better, man. We gotta stop poisoning our minds and with those narcotics, man, because those narcotics leave a lot of kids broken that can't ever be fixed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to go through the healing process, or they haven't had anybody to hold their hand and take them through the healing process. So they just be damaged for life. And I ain't gonna say it stagnate their process with success, but it stagnates their process when it comes to growing mentally. It's a lot
Growing
of
as a
people that's
person.
right. It's a lot of people that's successful, but who has never grown mentally or emotionally. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
we press for time. So Jason, I'm gonna let you chime in on that last statement I just said, man. Um, about what this young man told me, and just to go in on how a person can stagnate their process from growing mentally and emotionally.
I mean, as far as that, like you said, I mean, like me and my brother always talk about. I talk about with my brother, talk about my other brother, and we talk about it all the time. First thing is, there's a difference between rich and wealth. We always talk
Hmm.
about building generational wealth. And when people hear that, they're thinking, oh, you're talking about leaving millions behind for your nieces, your nephews, and all that. Yeah, the money's good, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that wisdom, that knowledge, that spiritual growth, that understanding, because that is something that lasts forever. That is something that can change the path of a family forever, change the trajectory of it. Like even me when I was younger, like I was blessed to have like my father was in my life. Like I said, he was there, but at times he wasn't because, like Eddie said, he was always a believer of I bring home the bacon, I work hard, that's my job. You know, my mother was there for the spiritual growth, the mental growth. Like I used to keep stuff inside. She's the one who taught me how to write rhymes. My mother did. She taught me how to use that as an expression. And then like with that kid, like you said about with the money, like you said, there's a reason millionaires can go completely bankrupt and then become millionaires again. It's
Mm.
not just because of their intelligence. It's because once you become a millionaire, now you're in a certain circle that understands money, understands how the world operates on a different level. So when you
Uh-huh.
fall back down again, you know the steps it takes. One, because of the grind you've been through, but also because of what they've taught you. So you know the steps it takes to get back there, and you know how to do it at a faster pace because you were there, because you were around that certain circle. And like that kid you said, 14 years old, he's talking about the drugs and stuff. Like I said, I raised two nieces and nephews. I've seen what it did with their parents and all that kind of stuff. They were hurt by that. They used to say the same thing, like, why does my mama love me? Why doesn't she want to be with me? It's not that she doesn't love you. It's she's sick mentally. She's sick emotionally. She's sick spiritually. Like my dad used to always say my mother was his angel because she's the one who brought him back to church. My mother used to always tell us when we say about praying, she'd be like, you ain't got to worry about being prayed for because you're prayed for. I got you covered because she prayed for us every day, you know? And as I got older, I started understanding the power of that and what that created in me. Like Eddie said, it don't matter if you believe in God, Allah, the universe, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it out there, believe in something. Because like my dad always said, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. You know, so you
Mm-hmm.
have to have a strength in something and something to guide you and something to keep a hold to that you can get a grip on. You know what I mean? And like everybody, this ain't just about being in a black man's mind. It's really we need to communicate with each other as a whole. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and then
Right.
like you said, case in point with the dude, the kid that said he needed someone to be straight with him. Like the one thing that saved me, I never forget this. And I don't know if Facebook hears this or anything, but my boy Jimmy Dillard. Like when I got out of high school, I kind of messed up with my college and stuff and those opportunities. So I decided to join the Navy. And it was the summer before I joined the Navy, and my boys were heading off to the military and heading off to college and doing this. Luckily, I had good homeboys that stuck by me, told me to stay out of certain trouble. And Jimmy, I never forget, we was driving one day, and it was getting close for me to leave. And I was starting to think about, you know what? I'm not even gonna go to the military. I'm gonna get out of these streets and get this money and do it that way. Me and him was talking, we were politicking about stuff and this, that, and the third. I had a little pistol. My dad took that from me eventually. And we get to his house, which is up the street from my grandmother's house. And he looks at me, he goes, Jay, it's the last time I'm gonna see you, right? Like, what you mean? He goes, bro, I don't want to ever see you back here again. He goes, you need to go live your life. You have a chance. Go do something with it. And we both the same age. And I never forget that. Cause I looked at it like, damn, bro, you don't want me to be around or nothing, we can do it. No, bro. I want you to go. You need to go. You don't need this. I don't want to see you around here. He saved my life. I always tell him that to this day. We may not talk as much, but he saved my life because of that day and that talk, And we need to be able to be like that with each other as black men. We need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
communicate like that with each other. We need to be able to be
Mm-hmm.
straight up. Because he could have said, yeah, bro, man, the hell with the Navy. What the Navy? That's just the white man controlling this, that, and that. We can go out and get this bread. We could do this, that, and the other. Then the crazy thing was, while I was in boot camp, my dad sends me a piece of paper, a newspaper clipping, where a lot of my friends and dudes I knew, federal indictments was coming down. Just from that one thing, him telling me, because he loved me that much to say, you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And
True friend, man. True friend, bro. True
Mm-hmm.
friend.
a true friend. And that's what I'm saying. Like Eddie said, like we talk about. These white folk look at us, you could be suited and booted to the T. And I've watched it happen in jobs I've been at. I come in, I'm in a suit, I'm in a tie, this, that, and the other, all the time professional. One of my boys pulls up, he got the caddy, he rolls down the window, you smell the weed smoke coming out, rims on, and what happens to walk by? My supervisor. This is who's picking me up. My supervisor walks by. His whole perspective instantly changes on me now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not even the same man in his eyes no more. Treated
Yep.
me differently after that. He never smelled weed on me or nothing on me. Never. All he ever saw me in was dress slacks, button-down shirt, collared up, nice dress shoes, presentable at all times. Speaking
You
professional.
know,
But you know
you
what?
know,
Oh, baby.
Jay, my granny dead and gone, bro. But she used to say, you are the company you keep.
Yeah. And that's why I said, like before, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most.
And
And that's what people think about.
and you know what's crazy? Sometimes that white man who actually do care about you say to you, I've been seeing the kind of company
You need to
around.
watch who you're
But you
around.
need to
Yeah.
watch what you wear. And what
Yeah.
we do, we
Oh, you
get
don't know
mad.
nothing about
Oh
us.
man, he just hate. He don't know nothing about it. Da, 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 or whatever. So, and I'm gonna say this because I know you got time. I want to short on time. Another thing I would say is with these young people or just in general in our community is survivor's remorse.
Yeah.
Survivor's remorse is the probably biggest deterrent to a black man being successful. And for those that listen to this that don't know, understand what that means when you get out, when you make it out, like my brother made it out, or whoever makes it out of their situation, you are so overcome of guilt that you made it and your friends or your people didn't. So you bring certain people along or try to pull certain people along that don't belong in the world that you went to, or and mess around and mess you up. You know what I'm saying? So I tell this story the other day. If you ever watched that show, The Corner, it was a mini series about these drug addicts in Baltimore. And the main guy, he ended up become a big time engineer. But
Mm-hmm.
he had the survivor's remorse. He felt guilty about going on with his life, and that he felt like the people that he left behind was gonna hate on him or didn't like him or think he was a sellout, and he fell into the world of that they were in. And then you seen them doing like the what you call it, the narration of it, when they was saying like basically he made it out and he came back to us and we like, bruh, why you come back here? You made it out already. We know we ain't shit. Why you come and be not shit with us? And at the end of the day, this was a true story. You know what I'm saying? True, real people. You know what I'm saying? And he ended up dying, overdosing, and his wife that was on drugs, that got on drugs during the time that he was at his height, she ended up getting clean. And he ended up
Yeah.
dying from it all. So at the end of the day, that's another thing. When we do make it out, whether it's through education, through sports, whatever it is, we don't never feel guilty about being successful ever in life. It just I don't think you I'm gonna say necessarily if you feel like you obligated to go back and help. We all obligated in our community to go back and help. Whether it's, if we like me and Jacob said, we take this platform and we do like mini camps or whatever, or camps for the kids, or we do different giveaways, whatever we do. We obligated in that realm to give back. But we not obligated to take somebody from the hood and to say, well, you're gonna come with me and live in my house and eat up my food and do all that and don't do shit. We ain't obligated to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even obligated to my brother to do that unless he just homeless. But I'm not obligated to let him stay in my house rent free and eat up all my food. You know what I'm saying? Or not do shit with his life. Because eventually if he come live with me, I'm gonna say, bro, just because I'm sitting over here with 10 million in the bank, you got to do something.
Do something.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't about to sit in my house. Well, I'm out here busting my ass for this 10 million, and you sitting around eating up the five. No, that ain't about to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So,
Can I say one more thing, Jacob, before I
Go
know
ahead,
it's
brother.
short? Two more things. One is something that I learned, and like I didn't understand it when someone told me this. They said you have to be selfish before you can be selfless, meaning you can't take care of nobody else until you can take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Period. You can't bring nobody up with you if you can't get yourself up first. That's
mm-hmm.
the first thing. And another thing my brother said, and something that made me get over survivor's remorse, like I went back home one time to the pine. I mean, I was talking to some of my boys, and I was like, man, you know what? I feel so bad. I ain't been back in so many years. I ain't done this. I ain't done that. And the first thing they told me was, bro, we wish we would have did it. Like, what you feeling bad for? There ain't nothing here. You did the right thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that we need to be able to do with each other too. Be able to say, bro, go live your life. Because one, you're not going to be able to come back and help us and do anything for us anyway if you can't do nothing for yourself. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't get out there and take care of yourself, you got to be able to be proud of that. You got to be able to stand proud and say, look, I can do this. I'm proud of myself for what I'm doing and what I'm becoming. Because then that's the best thing you can do to help anyway. Because that sets another example now of that it can be done different ways. It doesn't
Right.
have to just be sport, doesn't have to just be music, doesn't have to be this, it can be that. There's so many different ways you can be successful. And success isn't just being a millionaire. Success is up here.
Mm-hmm.
Success is in here, like you said, mental, emotional, and spiritual growth. That's success. Because that's what's going to get the next generation where they need to be too.
Because Steve Harvey said it best. And worst thing you can do for black people, I mean, worst you can do for poor people is be poor with them. That's the
For
worst
real.
thing you can do for them. You know what I'm saying? If you poor with them, ain't nothing you can do for them or whatever.
And
And
then
the
how
one,
you
Right.
and the
teach
other thing like you said with the millionaire statement is he said a guy came here one time say Steve Harvey, I'm gonna show you how to make $10 million. I got a business I want to do make $10 million. Steve Harvey said, have you ever made $10 million? He said no. He said, well, you can't show me how to make it then. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? So hey.
Hey man, but fellas, it's been great, man. I'm glad I got two biological brothers on my dialogue. This is the first time I had two biological brothers on this dialogue, the Just Us show, man, from different perspectives, different journeys of life, but face the same reality as black men in American society. So I definitely appreciate you guys coming through and chop it up, and um, appreciate the Queen coming through. She had a
Yeah,
little technical difficulties, but she was definitely
Yes,
chiming
yes,
in during
yes,
the
definitely.
comment section. So we
definitely.
definitely appreciate your perspective coming from a mother, a black female in society, and telling us why you feel unprotected as black women and us black men has got to do better than protecting our women because without her there's no us, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Fact.
Like uh,
Bottom
like
line.
it says he is strength and she
Mm-hmm.
is with. So when the two come together, that's a bond that can't be broken. So you know what I mean. So appreciate y'all fellas, man, and for all people in TV land, don't forget to tune in the morning, 901 Sports. At
8:30
8
a.m. 8:30 this
Radio.
time.
8:30
8:30. We
a.m.
doing 2 hours now. 2 hours
So
syndicated 8:30 in the morning.
yeah, so we on syndicated radio now. So so tune in, and we're gonna chop it up about everything in sports media, and so I appreciate y'all coming in. Peace, blessings, and love.
Positive energy, positive vibes all
All
the time.
right.